In this video series, we are going to reveal the greatest conspiracy in world history. As I've said before, this is not a conspiracy theory, but an actual conspiracy that will affect every person on the planet. In my previous video, I demonstrated how camouflage is used to conceal great danger in plain sight. We also saw the devastating effect of a tsunami that showed no visible sign of danger, yet contained extremely destructive power that caught many people off guard. We then discussed a phenomenon called the normalcy bias. The normalcy bias explains that we can quite easily enter a state of denial, justification, or mental and even physical paralysis when confronted with a crisis that challenges our core beliefs or our perception of reality. We also discussed the fact that world history is littered with wars. Despite all man's attempts to live at peace with one another, warfare still blights the nations of the world today. Now in this video, I'm going to explore the pursuit of world peace. Today there is a global call for world peace. At first glance, the quest for world peace seems honorable, desirable, and logical. No one wants to suffer the terrible consequences of war, racial hatred, or social deprivation. On closer inspection, however, the quest for world peace is fraught with danger and in fact conceals a terrible evil. The nations of the world are in fact being deceived. This deception constitutes yet another form of warfare that is hidden in plain sight and is being waged on unsuspecting victims. Sadly, the whole premise of the world entering into a peaceful utopia in future is fatally flawed, as I will later reveal. In my first video, I said that we do not seem to learn the lessons of history, and that as a result, history tends to repeat itself.
From the ashes of World War I, Adolf Hitler attempted to build a sinister new world order, led by a so-called race of Aryan supermen, spreading a reign of terror unlike any the world had ever known. Many believed the Nazis conjured strange spirits and followed occult practices that had lain dormant in Europe for thousands of years. Now documents prove that their beliefs were based on a perversion of ancient pagan law, a twisting of mythic battles between forces of light and darkness, and a terrifying journey into a world ruled by mystics, madmen, and murderers.
Now, we can see that the swastika became a very powerful talisman in Hitler's Third Reich. The symbol is in fact not German, but was adopted from the occult. Its occult significance is the spiritual transformation of man. It's used in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Freemasonry. The Third Reich was a fusion of occultism, paganism, mysticism, and spiritism. Now, Spiritism describes the process of summoning spirit beings for various purposes. Hitler was so obsessed with the occult that he wanted to be possessed himself by Lucifer to give him more occult power. The SS all had to undergo occult rituals as part of their indoctrination into becoming an SS officer, and the S's in fact are not S's, they are two lightning bolts, which, going back to the Bible, speaks of Satan falling from heaven as lightning comes from the heavens to the earth. So they were involved in very dark rituals, satanic rituals, which some believe even involved human sacrifice and included black sun worship. The Third Reich had its roots in mystical occult paganism. Hitler was profoundly influenced by the occult, and his Third Reich was an attempt, firstly, to establish a new world order with him at the helm, secondly, to destroy Judaism and Christianity, and thirdly, to establish a new religion with a combination of mystic paganism, spiritism, and occultism. Hitler was profoundly influenced by an occult organization called Theosophy. He kept a copy of a book entitled The Secret Doctrine next to his bed and based his Third Reich on its teachings. As we explore Theosophy further, we will discover that Theosophy continues to assert its insidious influence on the world today. The founding of the New Age movement can be traced right back to the 19th century through Theosophy. Theosophy is the group that popularized the belief that we are moving out of the age of Pisces into the astrological age of Aquarius, which to them is an age of the unity of humanity, an age of enlightenment, an age of heightened spiritual consciousness. The concept of the new age of Aquarius is based on astrology, an occult practice forbidden in the Bible. It is claimed that as certain planets come into alignment, the Earth will undergo a mystical transformation from its present state of turmoil into a blissful utopian state, literally heaven on earth. This cosmic shift will supposedly bring about a change in human nature, and this will manifest in the form of sympathy, trust, honesty, mutual respect, revelation, world peace, and the true liberation of our minds, as they put it. The New Age occultists teach that our minds will be liberated to realize that we are actually free from the dictates of Jehovah and can therefore live as we please. It is claimed that we are in fact gods, and that Lucifer the light-bearer is the spirit being who is the true God and who brings true spiritual enlightenment to humanity in the form of intellectual illumination. Albert Pike, the highest level Freemason in the world and today still revered as the most senior Freemason in the Masonic movement, says, "That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this. You may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the higher degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, Jesus, spread false and harmful statements about him? Yes, Lucifer is God." End of quote. These occultists claim to receive inspiration from the spirit realm. They acknowledge that the source of their inspiration is from Lucifer or Satan himself, and that they are engaging with fallen angels, but of course they teach that Lucifer is the good guy and the God of the Bible is the evil spiritual entity. So they invert what the Bible teaches. The Bible talks about, of course, the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. The kingdom of darkness being Satan's kingdom and the kingdom of light being the kingdom of God or Jehovah. And it teaches that these two kingdoms are at war with one another. Now, the aim of the New World Order is a one world government with a unified one world religion, and the New Age is that religion. Here is a quote by Zygmunt Brzezinski. He says, "The tectonic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date, complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. The admitted New World Order agenda to control a one-world government that rules over humanity is not only political but also spiritual and what is known as the New Age. The global elite are New Age occultists who adhere to New Age dogma and are responsible for this trend of discrediting Christianity, Jesus Christ, and Christian New World Order researchers. This trend is a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that is coming into fruition at the end of this age. The occult community is full of secret societies that practice secret oaths, secret meetings, and secret occult practices. This implies that they have something to hide. The Bible says that what is done in secret will be brought into the light. God does not keep secrets, but has revealed truth to us in the Bible. Let's listen now to a short excerpt from a video by William Cooper, a Christian researcher who researched the New World Order and the occult all his life. He explains the Luciferian doctrine behind the occult and the governments of the world and how they pervert the Bible.
In the mystery schools, they refer to this mystical time of coming out of the age of innocence as the Luciferian philosophy. In the Bible or in the church, they talk about the fall of man. Same thing. There's only one difference between the Luciferian philosophy and the fall of man, is that those who talk about the fall of man believe in God, whether or not they believe in a Savior, they believe in God. The ones who believe in the Luciferian philosophy do not. Now here's how that works. In the Bible, we're told that Eve was tempted by Satan to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God had commanded Adam and Eve not to eat of the fruit of that tree. If you do, ye will surely die. Isn't that the commandment? Lucifer, through his agent Satan, on the other hand, told Eve, God lied to you. He's holding back the fact that you too can become God. But first you have to eat of the fruit of this tree. And if you do, you will surely not die, but shall become as gods. Isn't that true? So, from the religious aspect, we see that as the fall of man because man disobeyed God. The mysteries, on the other hand, look at this in a different light. Here's their story. It's a metaphor. They don't believe that there ever was a God, or that there ever is a God, aside from man himself. And man has not reached that state yet, but can, and this is what they teach in the lodges, that if you perfect yourself as the temple of the God within and become Christed, you've all heard this in the New Age movement, you too can become God. Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor for the end of innocence. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God until Lucifer, through his agent Satan, set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land. Every secret brotherhood, every secret society, every mystical temple, every occult organization teaches the Luciferian philosophy.
Now, in order to understand the New World Order and the New Age worldview, we have to go back into history to examine its origins. But let's first define our terminologies. New Age refers to a worldview that consists of many facets and components such as mysticism, occultism, Eastern religions, spiritism, and astrology, which includes teachings of the signs of the zodiac. The term channeling refers to making contact with spirit beings who are often referred to as higher powers or ascended masters, aliens or ETs, or world teachers, which is in the context of spiritual teachers. Now, of course, the Bible teaches that any form of contact with spirit beings that are not associated with God or the worship of the true God is in fact contact with demons, who are fallen angels. Meditation refers to the process of clearing our minds so completely that we eventually make contact with divinity. The terminology all is one is the belief that all is one or one spirit being. This is called monism, and this is where the concept of pantheism originates, which is the worship of nature, because the belief is that the Spirit of God is in everything, and of course that Spirit of God is in human beings, so therefore people even worship themselves as gods. Man is God. This is the belief that we can attain godhood. Esotericism is all about reinterpreting ancient texts to find hidden meanings and to unify all these religions into one religious belief system. This is in fact exactly what Madame Blavatsky attempted to do when she created Theosophy, and she reasoned that if she could study all the world's religions and aggregate them into one new religion, that this new religion would represent absolute and ultimate truth. In other words, the wisdom of the ages, as she put it. Aquarian utopia refers to a one-world system of government for the coming age of Aquarius. New World Order refers to a political agenda to create a one-world government, one-world economy, and a one-world religion. Now, of course, this is nothing less than the unification of humanity into one living organism, which is the total control of human beings and the submission of the masses to a totalitarian occultic elite. In order to understand what is going on with the New World Order and the New Age movement, or what can more correctly be defined as the New Age religion, we have to go back to the 19th century when an organization called the Theosophical Society was established. This organization in particular, amongst others, is largely responsible for the modern New Age religion and the political doctrine known as the New World Order. The founder of the Theosophical Society was a woman called Helena P. Blavatsky, born August 12, 1831. She was very interested early in her life in the supernatural and mythology. From 1848 to 1858, she traveled the world to obtain an understanding of the religious traditions of the world. She claimed to have traveled to South America, Egypt, Canada, France, Greece, Mexico, Tibet, India, Germany, and England during this time. It's said that during this time she learned many mysteries, secrets, and occult knowledge from every walk of life. Armed with all this new esoteric information, she moved to New York in 1873. Then in 1875 she formed an occult organization called the Theosophical Society. She founded this society with two other men, Colonel Henry Steele Alcott and William Judge. According to Alcott, Theosophy already had thousands of members in branches all over the world by 1885. After New York, Blavatsky and Alcott established the Theosophical Society headquarters in India, and membership of the society increased over time. Now, Blavatsky's influence came from her writings. Her first book was entitled Isis Unveiled and was published in 1877. She then started a magazine called Lucifer Magazine. Her principal work, The Secret Doctrine, was then published in 1888. She then wrote The Key to Theosophy and then The Voice of Silence. These works are now famous or infamous depending on which viewpoint you're coming from, and contained in these writings are the doctrines that helped mold the New Age movement into what it is today. Blavatsky claims that the contents of her book The Secret Doctrine was channeled to her through an ascended master or highly evolved being called Cthulhu, who spoke to her. Belief in these ascended masters who communicate with humanity is a crucial concept when studying the New Age, and we'll explore this doctrine later on. The age concept that says that humanity is leaving the age of Pisces and entering the golden era or age of Aquarius was popularized by Blavatsky. Theosophists teach that Jesus was simply representative of the astrological age of Pisces, and that he was an initiate into the mystery schools or cults of spiritual teachers and masters. They teach that the age of Aquarius is going to be a new utopian age when the world unites into a one-world system, the exiting out of the age of Jesus and its outdated form of religion, and the entering into the age of a new world teacher. They claim that each astrological age is accompanied by a new world teacher such as Buddha, Krishna, Jesus Christ, and the coming New Age Maitreya. So, for the advent of the New Age of Aquarius, they claim that a New World teacher will guide humanity into it.
The very name, Maitri, that is loving kindness. Now, today's world, we really need a promotion of Maitri, loving kindness.
In Kushinagar, northern India, the place where Shakyamuni Buddha passed away, an extraordinary symbol of loving kindness is being created for the entire world. The Maitreya Project.
Maitreya Buddha, according to scripture, we believe the next coming Buddha. So therefore, it is useful to make sort of a special effort to make sort of relation or contact with the coming Buddha.
Just as Buddha Shakyamuni was recognized 2,500 years ago as an enlightened being, it has been prophesied by all the Buddhist traditions that Maitreya will be recognized as the Buddha of loving kindness. Some cultures know Maitreya as the Laughing Buddha. A statue of the monastic form of Maitreya is being built to last at least 1,000 years in India. This will be the largest symbol of loving kindness in the world. The main purpose of the Maitreya statue is to promote the qualities of loving kindness in this world. Buddha Shakyamuni explained there is incredible benefit in creating holy objects. When one sees a peaceful, loving image, it makes one think of peace. A positive seed is planted in the mind which will grow into loving kindness. Throughout the world, monuments serve to inspire humankind. The Taj Mahal symbolizes worldly love of one human being for another. The Statue of Liberty is a symbol of justice and political freedom. The Maitreya statue is a symbol of the perfected qualities of loving kindness, the essence of all religions.
Making this statue and see people to learn loving kindness by learning the teaching of the Maitreya Buddha. You see, with this good heart, then you see wars can be stopped. Everybody needs loving kindness. From loving kindness, then you can achieve freedom.
Now, Blavatsky advocated monism, a one-world brotherhood, a unity of mankind. It's interesting to note that God created disunity amongst mankind when he created confusion of the languages at the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament. This was done to prevent humans from uniting in rebellion against God, exactly the unity being promoted by Blavatsky and proponents of the new one-world Antichrist religion. In Blavatsky's book, The Keys to Theosophy, she lists three main goals of theosophy. Firstly, the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, color, or creed. Secondly, to promote the study of the world's religions. And thirdly, to investigate the hidden mysteries of nature. Theosophy is the first major New Age group, and they are largely responsible for many of the New Age beliefs, including the belief that Jesus represented the sun god. It is claimed that Jesus is actually a reincarnation of the Egyptian sun god Horus. Horus is one of the oldest and most significant deities in ancient Egyptian religion. Horus served many functions in the Egyptian pantheon, most notably being the god of the sun, war and protection. He is known as the god of vengeance, the god of the sky, protection and war. At the heart of all occult teachings is pride, that their secrets are only for the select few. It caters for an elitist mindset. At the heart of all they teach and do is the attempt to discredit the true God, the deity of Jesus Christ, the Bible, and Christians in general. Now in Ephesians 6 verse 12, the Bible reveals that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we can see that this is part of a spiritual battle. It's not people that we're fighting against. These ideas and ideologies and so-called spiritual principles come out of the demonic realm. These are spirit beings that are peering to these occultists and seeding their lies into their writings, into their minds, into their spirits. And of course, these doctrines of demons are then taught as so-called truths or spiritual revelation. Now, as theosophy grew, it produced influential figures such as Annie Besant, born October 1, 1847. She was both a Marxist and a socialist. She was also a feminist and joined the Marxist-based Social Democratic Federation, or the SDF, in the 1880s. She met the founder of theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, in 1890 and quickly read Blavatsky's writings. Besant got involved in Freemasonry, and in 1902 she established the Women's Order of Freemasonry called Co-Masonry and established Masonic lodges all over the world with theosophical underpinnings. Theosophy, Freemasonry and Marxism are all associated with the New Age movement. Besant would become president of the Theosophical Society in 1908. As we expose the origins of the modern New World Order and New Age doctrines, it's important to note the role of Freemasonry in all this. As already mentioned, Theosophy and Freemasonry were somewhat affiliated in the late 19th century. In fact, Blavatsky received an honorary degree of Apprentice Companion, Perfect Mistress, Sublime Elect Scots Lady from the Rite of Adoption. She was awarded with these titles by 33-degree Freemasons. Now, as far back as 1917, people were already recognizing the relationship between Freemasonry and Theosophy. Freemasonry, viewed doctrinally, is in fact Theosophy. Theosophists and Freemasons taught that Jesus was the Sun God, S-U-N God, and that he was based in the age of Pisces within the zodiac. The Marxist Theosophist Annie Besant taught, then the sun retrograded into Pisces at the time of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Pisces influence being shown by cures performed by stepping into pools of water, Christ choosing his first apostles from fishermen. This was quoted in Lucifer magazine. Now Blavatsky also taught ichthus, a fish. Some of his early disciples were fishermen. Pisces, a conventional shape for the fish. Manly Palmer Hall, a notorious occultist, taught, during the age of Pisces, the fish was the symbol of divinity, and the sun god, S-U-N, the sun god, fed the multitudes with 2 small fishes. Again, Blavatsky says, for the salvation of the world, this was the sun, S-U-N, shorn of his golden rays and crowned with black ones. Jesus and even Apollonius of Tyana were but epitomizers of the history of the sun. As Theosophy grew, it produced another prominent woman called Alice Bailey. She was born in June 6, 1880. She's one of the most influential Theosophists who convinced New Agers that humanity needs to establish a one-world government and one-world religion in preparation for the coming age of Aquarius. In order to achieve this, she deemed it necessary to teach humanity the religion of Theosophy and Freemasonry. She speaks of a spiritual war between esotericists and those who refuse to accept the New Age. Quote, it will be fought largely with mental weapons and in the world of thought. It will involve also the emotional realm from the standpoint of idealistic fanaticism. This inherent fanaticism will fight against the appearance of the coming world religion and the spread of esotericism. It must not be forgotten that only those souls who are on the probationary path or the path of discipleship will form the nucleus of the coming world religion. There is no question, therefore, that the work to be done in familiarizing the general public with the nature of the mysteries is of paramount importance at this time. When the Great One comes with his disciples and initiates, we shall have the restoration of the mysteries and their exoteric presentation as a consequence of the first initiation. Now, from these doctrines we can see that the stated objective of these occultists is to indoctrinate the public with their esoteric religious ideas and to externalize their occult teachings in humanity with the ultimate realization of a new world order that is devoid of what they call the negative influences of traditional Christianity. By this, they mean that Christians who claim that salvation can be found through Jesus Christ alone and only through Christianity, and that the Bible is the source of absolute truth, these people, they say, are divisive, narrow-minded, bigoted, fundamentalist, idealistic fanatics who are hindering the spiritual evolution of humanity. In other words, Christians are holding back the planet and retarding human progress on the planet. They are referring, of course, to spiritual evolution. We are retarding the spiritual evolution of humanity. Alice Bailey also reveals that Freemasonry is meant to produce advanced occultists and is in accordance with theosophical goals. She says, the Masonic movement, when it can be divorced from politics and social end and from its present paralyzing condition of inertia, will meet the need of those who can and should wield power. It is the custodian of the law. It is the home of the mysteries and the seat of initiation. It holds in its symbolism the ritual of deity, and the way of salvation is pictorially preserved in its work. The methods of deity are demonstrated in its temples, and under the all-seeing eye, the work can go forward. It is a far more occult organization than can be realized, and is intended to be the training school for the coming advanced occultists. In his book entitled Arcana of Freemasonry, Albert Churchward says, quote, can the unity of the world be accomplished by Freemasons? Yes, and by Freemasons only. End of quote. Freemasonry presents itself to the world as a friendly, fraternal order where men meet to network and socialize, but it is in fact an occult religious system. Freemasonry itself was infiltrated by the Illuminati in the late 18th century. Although there is a lot of fictional embellishment about the Illuminati, certain key facts have been established. Number one, the Illuminati did in fact exist in Bavaria in Germany. Number two, it was founded on the 1st of May 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. What is today celebrated as May Day or Labor Day is in fact the celebration of the birth of the Illuminati. 3. The organization was a type of revolutionary organization that sought political and societal reform. Interestingly enough, this was based on the assumption that if you could just gather enough really intelligent people together, you could solve all the world's problems. 4. The order grew and became very popular. 5. It was outlawed by the ruler of Bavaria, Duke Karl Theodor, who issued 3 edicts against the Illuminati, the third being in 1787. 6. Illuminati writings were discovered after the arrests of members and raids of castles. 7. The original writings were written in High German and published in a book entitled Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe by John Robinson, and another book, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism by A. Barruel. 8. The writings revealed that the Illuminati wanted a one-world system ruled by them, the overthrow of religion, and in order to achieve this, infiltration of Freemasonry. By infiltrating Freemasonry, they would be able to operate under another name or persona. Now, quoting from Adam Weishaupt, he says, do you realize sufficiently what it means to rule? To rule in a secret society, not only over the lesser or more important of the populace, but over the best of men, over men of all ranks, nations, and religions. To rule without external force, to unite them indissolubly, to breathe one spirit and soul into them, men distributed over all parts of the world. The prolific Masonic author and historian Albert Mackey writes, quote, to give the order a higher influence, Weishaupt connected it with the Masonic institution after whose system of degrees and esoteric instruction and of secret modes of recognition it was organized. The organization enrolled some of the most distinguished men of Germany, and it expanded rapidly into other countries. The original design of Illuminism was undoubtedly the elevation of the human race, but it cannot be denied that in the process of time abuses crept into the institution, and that by the influence of unworthy men this system became corrupted. End of quote. Fused with Freemasonry in the 18th century were the doctrines of elitism and globalization and the overthrow of religion, namely Christianity. Albert Mackey states that the Illuminati infiltrated Freemasonry before it was outlawed, so we have every reason to believe that it still exists today. By the time the Bavarian government outlawed it in Bavaria, it was already too late because it had spread worldwide. George Washington, himself a Freemason, believed that the Illuminati existed, and that some of the founders of the United States had the objectives of the Illuminati in mind from the outset, such as the separation of the people from their government. The then president of Yale University in 1798 stated, "There is sufficient evidence that a number of societies of the Illuminati have been established in this land of gospel light and civil liberty, which were first organized from the Grand Society in France. They are doubtless secretly striving to undermine all our ancient institutions, civil and sacred. These societies are closely linked with those of the same order in Europe, and they all have the same objects in view. The enemies of all order are seeking our ruin. Should infidelity generally prevail, our independence would fall, of course. Our republican government would be annihilated." Because this Illuminati doctrine of globalization and societal reform was fused into Freemasonry, later prominent Masons started voicing their anticipation of a new world order and a one world system. Quote, "The express aim of this order was to abolish Christianity and overthrow all civil government." End of quote. Another quote says, "The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation. None is fitter than the three lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expects little from it, and therefore takes little notice of it." End of quote. Freemasonry is just one of many ways to get people into the occult. The highest levels of Freemasonry and Theosophy are now striving for a new world order and a one world religion. Their dogma is that to enter into the coming age of Aquarius, the world has to unite into a one world government or new world order. Quote, "Mystic Masonry is not only the key to the religion taught to all men in all ages from the very beginning of conscious life up to the present, but it holds the keys to these religions and is in fact the very repository of religion itself. It has for its objects the uniting of mankind into a universal brotherhood." End of quote. The Scottish Masonic magazine The New Age admits that it is seeking a new race, a new religion, and a new civilization, which is the great plan for America. It says, "Great God, our King, has chosen the great American public schools to pave the way for the new race, the new religion, and the new civilization that is taking place in America. Any mother, father, or guardian who is responsible for the taking away of freedom of mind, freedom of will, or freedom of spirit is the lowest criminal on this earth, because they take away from that child the God-given right to become a part of God's great plan in America for the dawn of the new age of the world." End of quote. Now, what many people don't realize is that America was founded by the Freemasons of Europe as a Masonic experiment. That's why, for example, New York is named after the York Rites of Freemasonry in England, New York. And the Statue of Liberty, which was donated by the Freemasons of France to America, is in fact a statue that signifies a spiritual evolution where man becomes God through spiritual enlightenment. This is why you have like these rays of the sun around the head of this goddess Columbia, which is standing with this flame or the light. This all signifies that Lucifer, the light bearer, brings enlightenment to humanity. Manly P. Hall, a high-level occultist, states, quote, "The new Atlantis sets forth an ideal government of the earth. It foretells that day when in the midst of men there shall rise up a vast institution composed of the philosophic elect, an order of illumined men banded together for the purpose of investigating the laws of life and the mysteries of the universe. The age of boundaries is closing, and we are approaching a nobler era when nations shall be no more, when the lines of race and caste shall be wiped out, when the whole earth shall be under one order, one government, one administrative body. I'm now going to quote Alice Bailey, and she says, "The new era is coming. The new ideals, the new civilization, the new modes of life, of education, of religious presentation, and of government are slowly precipitating, and nothing can stop them." End of quote. I'm going to quote from N. Sri Ram, who says, quote, "Let us first consider the restoration of the mysteries. It is well known among members of the co-Masonic movement that its work has been faithfully continued up to the present, and that its numbers of lodges have steadily increased. I imagine that at such an auspicious time, when the inner and outer worlds will have come much nearer together, some of the great leaders of the hierarchy might take part in the outer work of reconstruction, and will then become the recognized leaders of the new world government." End of quote. The hierarchy he refers to is not humans. He's referring to spirit beings, what is claimed to be a spiritual hierarchy of ascended masters who have this great intellect and wisdom, and these are people who or spiritual entities who it is claimed are very highly evolved in every single way, and of course including spiritually, and they are going to become infused or integrated with the leaders of the New World Order or the New World Government. So here we have the concept of hybrid humans, which are a fusion of spiritual entities and humans.
This was written by Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall was both a Grand Master within Freemasonry, and he was a Grand Master in the Illuminati. And he says, "All of sincere heart will find consolation in the conviction that powers beyond and above human corruption continue to administer the destiny of the globe. It would be a mistake to confuse the governing bodies with the various sects which pretend to authority but give no indication or proof that they can manage efficiently even their own affairs." Now, Manly P. Hall knows who he's referring to here because he's part of that secret body. But of course, he speaks positively of it.
I'm going to now talk about Jiddu Krishnamurti. His father was a member of the Theosophical Society. He was raised by Annie Besant and was adopted and raised to believe that he was the Christ. He was brainwashed to believe that he was the returned Christ and that he would lead humanity into the new age of Aquarius. For many years, Jiddu spoke authoritatively about esoteric and occult matters, but became increasingly reluctant to be acclaimed as the Christ of Theosophy. He formally parted company with Theosophy, but maintained contact with Theosophists and gave lectures and wrote books about New Age spirituality. New Agers and occultists often assert that the story of Jesus is derived from pagan gods. These types of arguments against Christianity were inserted into the New Age movement by Blavatsky and Annie Besant. They constantly attempt to deny the deity of Christ because, according to Theosophical New Age thought, humanity is about to exit the age of Pisces, i.e. the old age of Christianity, which has become evil, they say, and is moving into the new age of Aquarius, in which a new world teacher, i.e. a Christ figure, will take humanity forward. They claim that many people are stuck believing in an old world Christianity, and that this is holding back people from their new spirituality. The best way, they say, to fix this problem is therefore to discredit the avatar of the Piscean age, Jesus Christ. They even go as far as claiming that Jesus never existed in the first place, but then contradict themselves by claiming that he was one of the world's spiritual teachers, or ascended masters, as they often put it. New Age spokesman and disciple of Alice Bailey, Benjamin Krem, says, quote, "The 5 major initiations which take one to liberation have their symbolic enactment in the life of Jesus. This is what the gospel story is really about. It is a very ancient story and has been presented to mankind again and again in different forms long before the time of Jesus." End of quote. Now, Theosophy and Freemasonry employ 3 arguments to debunk Christianity. Number 1, the belief that the story of Jesus was copied from other religions. Number 2, that Jesus is a representation of the sun, S-U-N. Number 3, that Jesus ushered in the astrological age of Pisces. Now, of course, that's ridiculous because the Bible clearly teaches against people getting involved with astrology. Now, it makes sense that theosophists would spread these views because they want a world system that believes in the age of Aquarius. In discrediting Christianity and associating Jesus with astrology, they can get apostate Christians on board in their false religion.